This Bitcoin mining company had to hire a guy from the outside to come in just to tell them to start buying Ethereum. Now, Ethereum's the number 2 crypto, and as we know, when people start buying ETH, it kicks off an alt season because a lot of the liquidity of alternative coins is tied to on-chain stuff. Ethereum is like the digital oil. But look, a lot of people are wondering if Bitcoin mining is even profitable still. This video is not about that. Okay, short answer is no. All right, not for you. And here's just a quick example for Bitcoin miners. They're having a hard time because Bitcoin is more popular than ever before, which means it's more crowded. And quite clearly, the miners are struggling. Look at these brand new machines, right? If you were going to buy a brand new machine that costs $8,480, you'd be lucky to make $41 a day, minus the electricity costs, which they don't tell you about, minus the cooling costs, and the warehouse storage costs. All the other costs are not taken into consideration. So you, regular person, no. Bitcoin mining, we've got better stuff. You could stake your Pulse and earn 13% APY today, and all you need is a little tiny computer that you can run from your own home. So Bitcoin mining is old, it uses a lot of electricity, and clearly people are struggling, and so the BitMine company is sitting around wondering, oh, what should we do? They hired this Tom Lee guy. Tom Lee is a researcher from Fundstrat. What does Fundstrat do? They do research, okay? So this researcher comes in and says, well, look, guys, maybe just buy some ETH, and maybe that'll save your company. Not rocket science, but when you're a Bitcoin mining company, maybe that's, a very bold, earth-shattering realization. I'm trying to tell you guys that people are looking at ETH, institutions, everyone's gearing up. And yes, it's taking longer than we thought, but I'm going to show you the trends that are all pointing towards alt season sooner or later. Okay, on chain, we've got 25%, a new record number of DEX volume, decentralized exchanges. Basically, people are using Uniswap 1/4 as much as they're using Coinbase. Now, it's still the minority, yes, but look at the trend. This number is up from 11%. So 1 in 10 people were using Uniswap over Coinbase. And now, 1 in 4 people. And that's in the last 1 year. Imagine this trend. I mean, that's a 2.5x in 1 year. Imagine 1 more year. We could go from another 2.5x, 25% to 75%. The world's moving on chain. And when you think about on chain, you think about Ethereum. And you're going to think about one more coin. If you're new to crypto and you're not already, you're going to think about PulseChain.com. Why? Because of this little chart right over here. The Strategic Ethereum Reserve, the founder, Richard Hart, founder of PulseChain, has hinted multiple times that he cares more than a lot of people about the price of Ethereum going up. So look at all these different companies holding ETH. If you've been listening to the maxis and thinking that ETH is never going to come back, look at some of these companies. Ethereum Foundation, SharpLink Gaming, basically the MicroStrategy of Ethereum. And now BitMine is going to make a move as well to get the headlines. Coinbase, Golem Foundation, and these are all traditional centralized exchanges or, DAOs, DeFi, classic DeFi stuff. And you got one weird one over here called PulseChain SAC. They had to make their own category for it, other. This is the sacrifice wallet that all the people back in 2021, they put in all their ETH and they sacrificed for freedom of speech. 166,000 Ethereum. This is the top 3 holder on the strategic aligned reserve companies. Now this wallet was seen doing some beneficial things for the ecosystem, which is why a lot of people are bullish. Some people say it's leverage. Long story short, when you get ETH past $5,000, imagine $10,000, you have what's called the abundance, the wealth effect. The wealth effect is that, people have spending money, basically. People go shopping. People are risk on, and then when they have a little bit of risk, they want even more risk. So they go for things tied to Ethereum, liquidity-wise. PulseChain is liquidity tied to Ethereum. And so are a lot of other altcoins, a lot of other high conviction plays. People have been very disappointed this cycle because it's all institutional. But institutional, everyone's basically just positioning, okay? Everyone is positioning. Everyone's positioning. Now look at this graph. I know it's a bunch of numbers. It's really boring. I'm going to explain it and read it for you. These are the Ethereum ETFs, the net inflows, all right? Just to show you how much wiggle room that Ethereum has to grow. The amount of money that has flowed in globally to all from BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, all these big companies that own like a large chunk of the Bitcoin and the Ethereum. These are the top 2 cryptos, okay? Ethereum is way more useful than Bitcoin, but that doesn't matter. So far, altogether, they've only put in $4.21 billion to buy up Ethereum. And what they do is they just buy Ethereum and they kind of just hold it forever. And they let other people trade the ETFs because they make fees on the ETFs. ETFs are just like a representation of Ethereum that's traded on the stock market. Same with the Bitcoin ETFs. That's why you always hear people talking about it. It's because what BlackRock does is they perma buy. And in Bitcoin, they've bought, over almost $50 billion of Bitcoin. which they buy up, they mint some Bitcoin ETFs that get traded, they make the fees. And yes, sometimes there are outflows, but they buy more than they sell. You don't have a lot of people redeeming all the time. Typically, they buy and they hold longer than everyone else because they're whales, they're institutions, they don't need to sell. Like, this is their business. So 1/10 of Ethereum, 1/10 of the buying power so far. Imagine if Ethereum gets to the same level as Bitcoin at 49 billion. We're sitting at 4 billion. So it's nothing but opportunity. And compare that to the global amount of money in the world. How much money is in the stock market? Okay, just the stock market alone, $109 trillion. And in the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, we're looking at 50 billion. So like maybe 1 out of 200. 1/200th of the global stock market is currently trading on Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Now there's derivatives, yes, there's all this other stuff. There's spot trading on all these centralized exchanges. But look, the ETFs are traded on the same place that the stock market is traded on. 200x higher valuation of the stock market versus the tiny little Bitcoin ETF and the even tinier little Ethereum ETF. And we see the trend of the world moving on chain. So it's just writing on the wall. Even the Bitcoin miners had to capitulate. All right, eventually, the fees that miners are making on Bitcoin are going down. And it's getting more and more competitive. Like, everyone's priced out. Look, you buy the best miner money can buy, and you're making 20 bucks a day. And you're probably losing money because of electricity. So professional miners that do this for a business, they need to hire people to tell them, hey, just go buy ETH. Hey, maybe you'd be better off just buying and holding the coins, which a lot of times a lot of companies are, in crypto especially, unless you can make fees or something. And pair this with the Federal Reserve. We've got Trump wants to appoint the new Fed chair. He's been talking about getting Powell out of there. He wants Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve chairman, to be gone because the guy hasn't lowered interest rates, even though he could have. Maybe he should have. Trump is trying to be the good times president. Okay, he's trying to get the markets to pump, and he knows what pumps the markets. It's lowering that one little number, the federal funds rate. So regardless of what Trump does, I mean, Jerome Powell is going to be out by May of 2026. And then this other guy, Scott Bessent, might actually come in. There's a couple of other names. They're going out with the old, in with the new here. And the CME FedWatch, this is a tool right here on the screen that they predict the interest rates and what they're going to be. And so we've got here by December 10th. All right, the current target rate is 425, let's call it. And by December 10th, people are predicting, down here you can see 10 plus 50 plus 30. So we've got about 93% confidence that there will be at least 2 rate cuts between now and December 10th, which is only a couple months away. By the end of the year, at least 2, 90%, 61% sure that we're going to have 3 rate cuts, and then 10% sure that we might even have 4 rate cuts. This is what pumps the money printer, okay? This is what pumps the economy, makes money easier to get. So everything's gearing up here, and I just wanted to explain this in perspective. A lot of people talk about ETFs, but might not know what it actually means. A lot of people talk about the federal funds rate, but here's the actual probability. Okay, you can use this CME FedWatch tool, and you can see the probabilities here. So it's likely, and even by October, right, 425 is the current, but there is a 71%, 74% chance that we get 2 rate cuts even by October, end of October. Almost certain that we get 1. September, we've got a 99% chance that there's going to be 1 rate cut. 95%. So rate cuts are happening. They're not happening as fast as Trump wants. Trump wants to hire a new guy. Anybody but Powell, he says. But it's all happening. There's just more time to accumulate. So I wanted to give you that news and just say, look, the Bitcoin miners are buying Ethereum. Okay, a lot of people are betting on Ethereum because they know it's lower liquidity. It's more useful. We saw Vitalik release his roadmap about privacy. All the innovations happening there. PulseChain gets to take all of the innovation from Ethereum. Ethereum is like the test net, for PulseChain. If stuff works on Ethereum, PulseChain's a clone of Ethereum. And PulseChain.com, my favorite crypto ecosystem, has been heavily suppressed. Now it's kind of just one big whale that we've seen lately, dumping billions and billions of Pulse at a time. I think he's taken out over a couple $1 million at the lows. Like, we're very, very low. But if we hang in there, the potential on this to go 10x, 100x, I could say higher numbers, but I don't want to go full Boltard right now. I'm betting on these core coins and a couple of other ones within the ecosystem. Take the time to explore it. If you're new, if you're wondering things about crypto, what's all this fuss about? Maybe you're wondering if Bitcoin mining is profitable. Is Bitcoin mining profitable? Because why, if it was so profitable, would people be telling them just to maybe buy the next best coin? Maybe there's better stuff out there. Maybe you've heard of Bitcoin, and maybe the fact that you've heard about it already means you are not early anymore. If you haven't heard of Ethereum yet, well, congratulations. You're actually at the right place at the right time. Just know that PulseChain is even more highly volatile, but newer, better community, better founder, better tech. It's decentralized. It beat the SEC in court. Legal clarity in the USA. And my hunch is that there's a big marketing push going to come for PulseChain. Could be any month now. Time will tell. My bets are here. Subscribe if you want to get my take on more daily news. Leave a comment. Share the video. Like the video. And I'll see you guys on the next one.